Hey guys, welcome to Talking Strongman. We are joined once again by the incredible Travis Ortmayer. Travis, you came on last year. We listened to your story, an incredible story. If anyone hasn't seen the part one of the chat with Travis, you need to go and check it out. You you were one of the top strongmen on the planet, amazing rise in the sport. And then it was a real heavy fall for you. You went to some really dark, depressive places. Since then, things have been going well, and you're kind of back on that rise. You've just won a Strongman Champions League a couple of weeks back. Everything seems to be going well. How's things in the life of Travis Ortmayer right now?
Man, life is good. Life is good, but it's all in a mindset of what you feel is good. So, whatever's going on in my life, I've had, a couple other things happen in the last year and a half. My mom died. My sister died a month ago. Hell, even one of my parents' dogs died a few months ago. And then my uncle. So it's been a rough run, but it's all, it's all part of life. So the most important thing to remember is, no matter what's going on, everything's as good as you make it. So I'm living the friggin' dream, man. Well, like you said, I just won that contest in Portugal, and so it's just a little cherry on top.
Yeah, I mean, if we're looking at your strongman success, I guess we have to go back to sort of 2010, 2000. I guess 2010 was kind of like you in your prime. Before then, maybe. And then
2010 was probably my best. Beginning of 2010 was my best. Yeah.
So to have that much time off, come back, not just come back, go through everything that you went through. I mean, do you want to quickly it was an in-depth chat, but very quickly tell people what you went through for those that haven't seen the original chat that we had?
Yeah, sure. So like you say, it's kind of a long story and a lot of depth, a lot of details. But the gist of it is, I started out strongman. I went straight to the top of the mountain. I was, fifth at Worlds 3 times in a row. I was third at the Arnold twice, fourth with a semi-broken ankle. I had a good run for about 10 years, and then I just competed so hard and so often. I would do between 16 and 18 shows a year, half of which would be overseas and flying back and forth, and a lot of wear and tear on the body. And then my training was so insane. I've learned a lot, let's just say, in the last few years, kind of moderating training.
The amount of times I'd like to go back and re-coach myself or something like that.
Yeah. Just pull a little bit of the crazy out at certain points, that has saved me a lot of grief. But with all that hard training and all that competing and then just the life that I was living in general, by I'd say 2011, it started to catch up with me. 2010 World's Strongest Man, I broke my ankle halfway through the final, and that injury kind of plagued me for the next year. I competed at the Arnold 6 months later, and it was still really, really hurting, but that's probably because I was training for the Arnold on a busted ankle. So, but it just led to kind of a breaking point, I think. I had been taking painkillers for a while, even before the break, kind of trying to push through all the training and the competitions. But once I broke my ankle, I think that was probably, the descent. I started taking more painkillers, trying to mask the pain so I could train. I was just mentally pushing so freaking hard all the time. I was burning the candles at both ends. And then with the painkillers, I was blowtorch in the middle. So, I burnt through that candle really fast. And the other side of painkillers is that it doesn't just numb the pain in your body, it numbs you emotionally. So, I started to kind of fade out and split, grow apart, I guess, from my wife at the time. And things fell apart there. My training fell apart because I was so much pain all the time. By 2012, I couldn't stand training anymore. I pushed through the Arnold in 2012. I tore a little piece of my quad a week out, which was just more frustration on top. So I think after the Arnold, I really stopped training hard. I competed a few more times throughout 2012, but it was just like I couldn't stand the thought of going to the gym. I didn't like training. I didn't like doing what I'd loved to do. Since I was 11 years old, I've been working out. And so with that comes a void. So here's something that happens with athletes that have competed at a professional level for a long time, or pushed their whole life, let's just say, for some kind of goal. You have this huge chunk of your life devoted to that goal every single day. And then when you take it away, you're left with this void, and that vacuum, it sucks in whatever comes easiest. And a lot of times that's things that aren't particularly healthy for a person. Drug addiction's a big thing. Depression's a big thing. I was watching a show called Real Sports, and he was talking about this exact thing with professional football players and when they retire. And when professional athletes retire, there's a 75% divorce rate because they lose themselves. It's hard to love somebody who doesn't know who they are anymore.
Yeah,
I mean, I remember looking in the mirror.
I think for any athlete, it's really difficult when they come to that point where I'm no longer focused on trying to be an athlete. That retirement point for not just strongmen, any pro athlete is very, very difficult unless they've got something to go into.
That's exactly it. And that's kind of where I was going. I'll get to that in a minute, but you're left with that void. You look in the mirror and you don't recognize the guy staring back at you, and so when you're lost, when you don't know who you are, it's hard for anybody else to love you. And that divide with my wife grew larger, and we split up towards the end of 2012. And, this was kind of, training was falling apart. Competing was falling apart. I was definitely, I'd tried to get off painkillers a few times and with no success, because that's fucking miserable. I was deeply into them by this point, a couple of years deeply into them. And, so all these things are kind of coming together. I'm starting to lose myself and lose everything. And it was this beginning of a perfect storm that, November 25th, 2012, it really started to come together as a perfect storm of self-destruction. That was the day I took my then wife and my son to the airport for them to move back to England. And she was from England originally. I had the idea she was going over to set things up, and I was going to sell the house and get things done over in Texas, where I lived at the time. But everything in the back of my head was screaming. Alarm bells were going off. The intuition was yelling at me, and I ignored it. And, seeing them walk through those doors at the airport, my wife carrying a couple suitcases, pushing a cart with suitcases, holding my son's hand, who's got his little Cars backpack on, pulling a little suitcase, and he's got his little hat on. And that was the single worst moment of my entire life. A pain ripped through my heart. Like I cannot express how bad that hurt. And I mean, as well as I do what physical pain's like. We've pushed our bodies, we've broken things, we've dealt with pain. But man, for me, nothing came close to that pain. I had to pull over on my way home and stop and just kind of break down for a minute, because I couldn't keep driving. I was losing my freaking mind. But that pain hurt so bad that, I was kind of looking for a way to hide from it. And that's when, I let myself I went with the idea of, Travis, just take a week, just get as fucked up as you want. Just let it out, man. And so I did. And, I had a old friend of mine who had offered crystal meth at any point. It was kind of an open invitation. You ever want some, let me know. And so I hit her up. And that week turned into 4 years of misery. At first I was just kind of masking the pain. The painkillers weren't numbing it enough. So I was doing even harder shit. During that week, I did realize that, when I was on meth, I didn't need the painkillers. I could actually kind of get off the painkillers because I forgot to take them one day. And I noticed I didn't have any side effects. I didn't have any withdrawal symptoms. So I thought, well, shit, here's my chance. I can finally ditch this one and this one I can get out of my life, no problem.
Sure.
Yeah, whoops. I just exchanged one monkey on my back for an even bigger, nastier monkey on my back. And that, like I said, that lasted for 4 years. It was kind of a nightmare. And that perfect storm came together. And I mean, just to sum it all up, I ended up losing my wife and son. I lost my family. My friends kind of stopped coming around. A couple people tried to keep in contact with me, but, I was in a dark place and I wasn't really responding to anything. I put myself into a black hole. So I just lost everything, my passion, friends, family, all of my money that I'd ever had saved. And eventually I lost my house. And, I wasn't training. I wasn't competing. I couldn't even look at a gym. I didn't, let alone walk into one. So I was just surviving in this miserable existence of pain and sorrow and constant hurt because I've missed my son so freaking much. And there were days when I would call. There would be a couple days in a row sometimes I would call and I'd get no answer. And after hearing the voicemail come on yet again, it kind of breaks you, that hurts. So I remember at one point breaking down. I was in a really bad place. I did my normal, 10 a.m. call, which was about 6 p.m. there. And again, I got the voicemail and I kind of broke and I thought, I don't want to do this anymore. And I had a Beretta 40 caliber at that time and I was about to end things. And I'm sitting there, I had a gun in my freaking mouth and something just kind of, I think, I had this little guy living back here taking notes, that intuition telling me little things. And I think he hung back long enough to make me experience all of this hell, probably for a reason, for a purpose, or at least I like to think so. Whether it's real or not doesn't matter. It became my purpose later. But in that moment, he's screaming now, look, you've got all this loss, all this pain, all this suffering. And I'm looking around, I'm so sad. And I thought, how did I freaking get here? And I noticed that all the times I thought about everything I lost, all the pain that I had, I started to spiral downward. And it made everything worse. The more I thought about it, the more pain and sorrow and sadness I got, hopelessness. And so I noticed a trend right there and then. I said, well, shit, maybe if I'm thinking this way and it's creating this result, maybe if I turn it around, I can create the opposite result. So I kind of shaking with this sudden realization, I put the gun down and I'm like, fuck, okay, I got to find something. I got to find something good here and now. And I look around and I see because I was in my house at this time, but it had been foreclosed on. So I knew I was losing it. So I look around, I think, God, I'm losing my house and I got all this shit everywhere. It's a tweaker house at this point. It's fucking nasty. For those who have been there, you don't need explanation. But I started to catch myself going, oh, I'm losing this. And look at all this sadness and all these sad memories. And went, no, wait, stop. So I had been so trained to see the negativity. I thought, find one positive thing, find one. and I couldn't. Looked around. I finally kind of gave up, and I put my head in my hands. I looked down, and I see my feet. Now, at this point, I had been shooting meth for a couple of years, and when you do that, your feet get kind of messed up. You know, you get little like blisters, and they're dried and cracked and whatever. But I looked at them, and I thought, shit, at least I can move them. At least I can still stand up. They're a little busted, just like me. But if I need to, I can stand up and I can get the hell out of here if I need to. And for the first time in years, I felt this little surge of joy come up out of the pit of my stomach and sit right here in my heart. And it was the best feeling I could remember in such a long time. I just kind of sat with it. There we go. So simple, so little, something. I went to sleep, got up the next day, and I thought, I want that feeling again. I want that. So I started looking around, and I caught myself catching the negative spiral again. I said, no, stop. We're going to turn this around. Let's find one thing. And I thought, well, if I got my own 2 feet, I still got my own 2 hands. And these hands are still strong. And with these hands, with these feet, I can go anywhere. I can do anything. And I got that little surge of joy again. And I thought, shit, there we go. Okay, I'm on to something. On the 3rd day, I found a 3rd thing. On the 4th day, I found a 4th thing. On the 5th day, I didn't find a new thing. But I went through my previous 4. That was my new thing. So now, even when I couldn't find something good, I just recite my list of the good things that I did have, and it would bring that same feeling up every time. Eventually, I realized that doing this, I'm looking at the same world around me, the same picture with a completely different lens. And it changed my entire life. It saved me from the darkness. Finally, I was clawing my way out of hell, and I saw a little pinprick of light, a little bit of hope for once in 4 years of that dark, miserable hell. Now, it took me another, almost a year to get clear of that. Maybe about 8 months, because I had so much momentum built up against it. So you got to really fight that momentum. And as you're building up, it gets easier, and you build opposite momentum. But staying steadfast and true, and in the face of adversity, I had so many people around me that were so negative. That misery loves company. Well, people in that hell, they don't want you to get better, because then they have to look at themselves like, why am I not getting better?
Absolutely.
So I remember one woman saying, what do you have to be so grateful for? And I was like, oh shit, I'm rocking the boat now. Oh man, this is awesome. Oh, that just gave me even more momentum. You know what I mean? So I just kept staying true. And I had little tricks that helped me along the way. I'd put a little rock, just a cool looking little rock in my pocket. And every time I'd reach in my pocket, if I'm grabbing my phone, if I'm grabbing my keys or whatever, every time I reach in my pocket, I'd pull that rock out, and I would go through my gratitude list. I'd pick 5 or 6 things that I was really, truly grateful for. And I would say it every time I touched that, which would be 5 or 6 times a day, maybe more. If it was in the pocket with my phone, I'd check it all the time.
Yeah.
So that's one little trick that helped save me. I ended up losing my house. I got at that time I was losing my house when they kicked me out. I had just gotten a call from my parents, who had moved away a couple years prior. We were living in Houston. They moved in 2014 to Reno. So this is October of 2015 at this point. And my mom had gotten sick. So they're like, you really need to come out and see your mom, And at that time I was broke. So I'm like, hey, maybe y'all could send me a little money, help me out. And they're like, oh, no, we can't do that. But, you really should come out here. I'm like, well, all these things are kind of stacked against me. Oh, yeah, well, bye. Hopefully we'll see you. That's kind of what I got. Mm. So when I got kicked out of my house, the police and, people came to evict me. it was painful in the moment, but it was more a feeling of liberation, because that house had been the source of so much pain. It's where I had my family. I was finally free of it. I could feel this weight coming off of my chest. And to get to Reno, I needed to save some money. So what I'd been doing during this time, these last few years, was kind of scrapping business. I'd find stuff and break it apart and scrap it, or I'd fix it up and I'd resell it. You know, go drive around on trash night. I was always an industrious person, you know, and living off anybody else. But I lived in a storage unit, the storage unit that we trained at for years and years and years. I was packing my stuff that I had from my house, you know, the stuff that I wanted to keep in there. And I just kind of carved out a little nook for me to lay down on this maybe 3 by 4 foot little box with a yoga mat on top. And then I put my feet up on the shelf that I had built behind it. That's where I slept for 2.5 months. And I did that so I could save money, so I could get to Reno the fastest way possible, because I knew I just needed to get the hell out of Houston and start over. So in that ride from Houston to Reno, I had saved up enough money by Christmas, a couple months later. And I left on Boxing Day, you know, December 26th. I left on my ride to freedom, on my ride to Reno. And I told myself, because I was still on meth at this time, but I told myself, we're not going to find anybody to buy more from. You're going to have to start doling it out and kind of decreasing your usage and just taper off. You're going to have to make it. So I did. I went. I packed my truck with about 700 pounds of shit, put a tarp over it, and started driving. And took 10 days to get to Reno. It's a 2-day drive. But I drove when I wanted to drive. I slept when I wanted to sleep. I ate where I wanted to eat. One of the coolest parts was I was going to go to visit the Grand Canyon. This is my 4th or 5th day in. And I remember driving in. It was like midnight. Snow everywhere. That 700 pounds in the back of the truck saved my life, because it was a 2-wheel drive truck. I had no idea what driving in snow was like. So I pulled off.
I don't suppose there's so much snow in Texas.
Yeah, exactly. I don't think I'd ever even seen this white shit falling from the sky. But I pulled off to the side to take a nap, and January 1st, 2016, the dawn sun, the new sun coming up for the new year, was right in front of my face, coming up over the rim of the canyon. It was the most beautiful thing I'd seen in, I can't say how long. Right there, just happened to just pull over to the right perfect spot for this majestic new year. And it was just kind of symbolic, you know, it was like my being reborn almost. Yeah, that's what it felt like. So, you know, it was pretty cool. But I got to Houston, or I got to Reno a couple days later. And at this time, I had so to kind of go back to what was going on. Obviously, being addicted to meth, most guys get really skinny. Most people get really skinny. I was no different. I lost a ton of weight. I'd lost so much weight that I was burning off a lot of muscle. I actually ended up in the hospital at one point because I was really kind of feeling really shitty, because I was they had so much muscle protein breakdown in my blood. But anyway, I got down to 227 pounds during that nightmare, which is, oddly enough, the exact same weight that I was at my very first strongman contest.
I remember you saying, you know, you got up to what, 330 as an athlete?
I competed at 330. I got to 340 once.
Wow.
So 340. So 120 pounds. Yeah. Everything. I remember somewhere in the darkness kind of asking myself, when is this going to end? And that little guy back here, he popped up and said, you're going to start over. I mean, instantly said, you're going to start over.
And that's
And
basically what you've had to do.
I knew that's what it meant was, yeah, you're going to lose everything and you're going to restart this whole journey. My first day back in the gym, I did some dumbbell bench and shoulder press, and the 55-pound, 25-kilo dumbbells kicked my ass, man. They were heavy. I got sore as hell the next day. The next week, I did a deadlift workout. Pulled 405, which is like 185 kilos, 405 for 3 reps. And I thought I had broken my back. I was so sore. And I'm sitting here thinking, how the fuck did I ever do what I used to do? I pulled like 900 pounds. How in the hell did I ever do that?
Yeah.
There's no way. And that mountain that I had in front of me grew in size exponentially, like right then and there. Holy shit, man. How am I ever going to get back? But I just started training. I trained when I felt good. And then I got onto a program and I started following the program. And I started to really pay attention to diet and programming. And that's when it kind of took off. I know there's muscle memory. You gain a lot of strength back pretty quick. But because I had so much muscle protein breakdown, I didn't get as far as I should have. Sure. I've had to scrap and fight and get every single little bit of extra gains that I've made. It's come just like it did when I had to get it the first time. I got to around 700 pounds on my deadlift in the first year, maybe 14 months of training. I got back to
on the way back or originally?
On the way back.
Okay, yeah.
On the way back. Yeah, in 2016, when I started training, 2016, maybe the beginning of 2017, I pulled 700. But from there, it was just an incremental, hard-fought 20 pounds here, 20 pounds there, 10 pounds. But so now I'd been to hell. I've been all the way to the bottom of hell. Stared the devil in the face, told him I wasn't done yet, and I started clawing my way out. And now I'm rising, I'm climbing back up the mountain. By 2017, the end of 2017, I'd gotten far enough, I felt like competing again. And so I did America's Strongest Man. I kind of got my ass kicked, but I was able to do everything. And I knew I just had to keep putting one foot in front of the other, and I could keep climbing this mountain. And then, 2018, I had a pretty good run. Competing in Champions League, competing in some American contests. Then at the beginning of 2019, I won Champions League Turkey, and 2 weeks later, ripped my supraspinatus clean off doing Viking press. So, I was on the way up, and then there was this big knock, just kind of, but at that point, I've been so used to. You were
in a mentally strong position, weren't you?
Yeah, I'm so used to standing back up and fighting. You can kick me while I'm down, it ain't gonna make a difference. I'm gonna keep getting up. And that mentality kept me going through that injury, because apparently it was a career-ending injury, and the surgery was extensive. You had to go in, drill 3 or 4 anchors into the bone with a few stitches each to hold it in place. And I remember at like the 4-week or 5-week mark, I threw my arm up on a yoke, and then I kind of pulled it off to see if I could hold it up, and it just dropped. I had no activation. I remember being able to catch it for the first time and being ecstatic. That was about 6 weeks after the surgery, but just that mindset was there.
Yeah. You're very similar to myself in that respect. I think both of us have probably been told by doctors numerous times, you're never going to do this again.
Yeah.
I just refused to listen. I was like, I'm going to find a way. I don't care what way, I'm going to find a way.
That's the thing, man. That's the thing. If you've got it here, this will find a way. The body is so remarkably adaptable. I've got chunks missing all over the place, but it keeps freaking moving. It keeps going. And I feel pretty good overall. I think it's all here. If you believe you can do it, and you give yourself the means to heal, you will always heal. You just got to find the right means.
It's so true. I mean, it's all that, it's cliche and it's kind of cringy in some ways when people look at it, but that mindset is so important. And I won't ever kind of say I was in the position that you were, but I've suffered with mental health issues myself. I've been down, to the point of at one point being suicidal. And you do create that negative spiral. And it's exactly how you say, it's starting to look at things in a different, you see the same things, but in a different way.
Yeah, you put that lens, change the lens. I mean, over the world. Yeah.
I remember when I was in that negative place and I picked up an injury, it was, end of the world. You wanted to kill yourself because you had an injury, or, there was other things going on, but it all added up. Whereas just as an example, I tore my bicep recently up in Scotland doing some traditional stones. And I literally looked at it and I'm in a good place now. And mentally, it just makes such a difference. And I looked at my arm. I was like, some people don't have an arm. My arm will recover in 6 to 12 weeks. I'll be fine. And literally just realizing, okay, there's so many people that are worse off. I'm in a lucky position. Just mentally, I was like, it doesn't matter. Move on.
That's awesome. It's just another chunk, whatever.
Yeah, but you do have to have that mentality. We're very lucky to do what we do. And you've been in some, you went through a very, very rough time in your life. No one can deny that. It is what it is now, but you've managed to change that mentality so much. And now you're influencing so many other people in a positive way, that's probably one of the most rewarding things you can get from this whole journey.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, it comes down to perspective, like you're saying, with mindset. Here's another little nugget for people who may be going through something. So because of what I've gone through, most people live their world with their threshold for good and bad in here. I've experienced this, and it takes going through some shit to really expand your threshold, but it really makes the highs even higher. Yeah. So I've got this expanded threshold, of what pain really feels like, of what awesome shit, of what victory and wonderful things really feel like. So to me, that's really squeezing the juice out of life. You know what I mean? I'm not stuck in this boring kind of go to work today, I'll come home, have a drink, repeat. Yeah. It's really living life. And when you're going to really live life, there's going to be a lot of pain. There's going to be a lot of awesome stuff, but there's going to be a lot of pain. So it all goes.
Sometimes it's taking that risk, isn't it?
If you don't say this pain is bad or this horrible nightmare is that bad, you take a step back and look at it and go, yeah, this is a horrible nightmare and I'm experiencing this. So I kind of want to change my experience to something better. And if you remove yourself from the emotional, the emotions overwhelming you, then that's how you can navigate the good and the bad. Feel it, take it into your body. Like, where does this hurt? Where does this feel good? Where do I feel this emotion? And then kind of step back. Okay, I feel it in my chest over here. Step back and then say, okay, now I want to feel something else. Let's find some other way to feel something else. And you just kind of navigate life as though you're, kind of an intricate part of it, but also an outside observer. And that's the thing that I learned with having this little passenger back here. I always make the joke that it's like a little miniature Travis with a notepad. And he's like, well, we're going to experience this today. And Travis out here has to go through that shit. And this sucks. It hurts. Or this is really excited and happy. And he's back here going, that was pretty cool. That was really shitty. Wow. We don't want to do that again. No. But, there's also the one he's taking
a long list of things that you got to tick off. Oh man, we spoke so much about the negatives and what you went through and how you got out of it. But since then, I mean, in terms of strongman, things have been on the up and up. You got back to World's Strongest Man. So how was that for you, going back to Worlds?
Man, that was fucking awesome. That was awesome. I remember it was awesome and it was overwhelming. I remember getting the message from Colin, and he's like, "Hey, years ago," and this is what a good guy Colin Rice is. Years ago, when I was right at the beginning going downhill and falling apart, he contacted me, reached out, and he's like, you know, whatever you're going through, man, hey, if you ever need, first off, someone to talk to, or if you just want to get away and do a contest, hit me up. You can, we'll get you there. And so he sends me this message, and he said, you know, I know all those years ago I offered you, you know, the chance, if you ever needed it, to do a comp. He's like, how about I do one better? Do you want to come to World's Strongest Man this year? I was like, you got to be shitting me. I had to read it. I had to get my dad to look at it. I had to read it again. I'm like, did I see this right? Like, hell freaking yes, I want to come. At that point, I felt like I was able to do it. So yeah, I mean, this is what this fight's been about. Yeah. You know, half of it has been about getting to Worlds. The other half was about getting to Worlds so that my son could see me, because I haven't been able to find them. I haven't been able to talk to them. You know, they moved and changed their number or something. I don't know. She just stopped answering my calls at some point. So I haven't been able to communicate with my son. And I thought, it's big in England. He'll see his dad on TV. This is what I've been fighting for. Hell yes. So I was really excited. I had about 2 months to prepare, and I basically crammed 10 years into 2 months, and I worked my freaking ass off. And I had Derek Poundstone helping me, and, you know, and I was kind of riding the line between injured and getting really strong. I mean, I PR'd all kinds of things. I PR'd my squat. I PR'd my deadlift, some of my best numbers ever in my whole life, you know, since before the fall and after the fall. I mean, but I guess I was pushing so hard and so motivated that I didn't realize how deep I was digging myself in. And by the time I got to, you know, a couple weeks out from Worlds, it was probably one of my last heavy training sessions. I tweaked my hamstring a little bit on the frame carry. Yeah. And it didn't quite heal enough because I was just so deep into being in that, you know, just being overtrained. We just call it overtrained, whether you believe in it or not. I overtrained. So I got to the contest, and I realized, you know, looking back, I was ready. I really was strong enough. I didn't have to kill myself. I really was fully capable, because I thought, you know, I was way behind. I needed to catch up. Man, looking back, I was right there. I could have been 100% in the final. But on the first event, you know, it was the anvil and the barrels and then the frame. Yeah. Well, I think it was another test. So I go out for the first event, and I load the anvil, no problem. I run to the first barrel. As soon as I pick it up, I snap something in my finger. You know, one of those, I think they call it a pulley tendon. Yeah. I've done it to this finger. It's just one of those things. It's gonna fuck with you for about 6 months. It's gonna suck. Your grip's gonna be kind of shitty.
Yeah, they take a long time to recover from.
Yeah. And you know, when you wake up, you get stuck like this. You got to kind of bend it and make sure it keeps moving. Because I know guys who are stuck like this and never fixed it. So that's not going to happen to me. No, thank you. Yeah. So, but anyway, it was the very first pick, and I picked the damn thing up, and I hear it snap. I'm like, God damn it! And I'm loading this freaking barrel. I'm like, you son of a bitch! First freaking event. I'm cussing at myself as I'm doing it, and then I run back. I get the frame, and you know, I pick it up, and it starts to slide out of that hand a little bit. I pick it up again, and at this point, I'm so focused on the hand and just gutting it out that I neglect to think about the hamstring that was still kind of tender. And so on my last pick, on my last step, I feel a little snap. right in the middle of deep inside my hamstring. So there was the first event, World's Strongest Man, 2 freaking injuries. It was kind of like a big middle finger. Welcome back to Worlds. Are you sure you want to do this? So, you know, it was at that point, I just kind of had to limp through the rest of the contest.
You finished the heat, didn't you? You didn't pull out.
Oh yeah. I tried to hide it, but you know, limping off and having your leg wrapped doesn't hide anything. But you know, our next event was the squat. And the squat was my very last event at World's Strongest Man 2011. So I wanted a little redemption, you know, because that was the year they had us go first and they set it way too low. And then they let us go again. I didn't get to go again because, you know, things had happened at that point. But I bombed it. So I wanted some freaking redemption. So we're warming up and my hamstring is screaming at me. So I look at the coordinator and I tell Katie, like, hey, I may not be able to do this event. I might have to drop out. She's like, okay, well, I'll go tell them. And I'm like, well, let me just one set at a time as I'm warming up. And, you know, I got to 405, got to 500, 585. I put the suit on and I just go really slow. And I kind of find a position where I don't activate the hamstring. And I'm like, I think I can do it. So I'm going to give it hell. So I get out there. I get all fired up for the squat. I come off the racks and I take that first rep, just a slightly tentative. And I come up and I'm like, oh, yes, this feels awesome. And I knock out the second. I knock out the third. And I'm coming up on the fourth. And I get bent a little bit forward and I feel that hamstring light up. I was like, shit. So I dump it. I didn't want to rip the whole thing off, but it felt so easy that I just got stupid and I got a little ahead of myself.
Yeah.
You know, I know I had 9 or 10 reps in me, you know, and because I think Ivar's had already hit 10, I may have been able to gut out an 11th. I may have been able to force that for the win. And that's how confident I was. That's, you know, thank you, Derek. We got my squat better than it's ever been in my life.
That's good.
It's just, I had to drop it on the fourth one because I was being stupid and got tipped forward and lit that hamstring up. So
to be fair, that was it the axle squat that you had?
Yeah.
Yeah. That thing's hard to keep in the place. It just one slight bounce or something and it'll shift on your back. And
it does. Yeah. It wants to kind of roll you back and forward. And I felt that and I still got careless and just no excuse. It was my fault. I could have gone a little more cautiously.
I mean, when you think about what you've been through, just to be back there was incredible. Now I know you being you're going to want to get back there and make the final and do even better. And
oh yeah,
how many contests have you done since Worlds? It's not that long ago, but two, and
two since Worlds.
You've just come back from Portugal where you won Strongman Champions League over there.
Yeah, and we had one the week before in Finland. It was a 2-man team competition.
Yeah, so, I saw that. That was like a fun show.
It was a fun show. But I felt because that was only 5 weeks after Worlds.
Yeah,
I remember warming up the second day for the yoke, and I felt that hamstring start to grab. So I kind of had to reel things back in. You know, and because I had Portugal the next weekend.
Yeah.
So I reined it in, and then you know, mentally, I remember right before the contest in Portugal having a little talk with myself. We had a 25-minute bus ride over, and so I'm sitting in the front seat. I got no one messing with me, and I just kind of halfway, I fall into this, I guess, perfect meditative state. I was half asleep, half awake. I was very aware of everything around me, but I was very aware of the conversation that I was having with myself. And I said, look, you're going to use every one of your muscle fibers around the affected area. Shut that down, leave it alone. Everything else is going to be on. You're going to be strong. You're going to be fast. You're going to be no hesitations, no problems. You're going to take it. You're going to take it somewhat slow on the moving events because there was a frame carry, and that's the one that aggravating it. So you're going to take it somewhat slow, but everything else you're going to go hard on. And on those moving events, we're shutting down that one channel of that injured hamstring. It's going to be off today. And I guess it worked, man. I mean,
it's an incredible philosophy to have.
Well, you know,
it worked for you, so I'm not going to say anything against it.
Whether it's possible to do that or not, who gives a shit? It worked.
That is some serious control over those muscle fibers.
No, man.
But, you know, a great performance, and I guess motivating you for more things to come.
Yeah, that got me pretty fired up. You know, I came home, I took a solid probably 10, 12 days to recover from that trip, and then started training. I started working with Dan Hipkiss. You know, Luke and Tom
I know Dan very, very well. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. You've had him on your show, I think.
Yeah, Dan and me talk quite a lot, so that's cool that he's working with you.
Nice. Yeah, well, you know, it's a funny story how that kind of came together. Somebody randomly on Instagram sent me his story, and his story was, you know, asked me a question, and somebody said, out of all the athletes, who would you want to work with? And my name was one of the three he listed. And I'm sitting here thinking about
we just lost your visual. There we go. He's back.
Sorry. I was sitting here thinking, you know, Tom and Luke are freaks. I want some of that. So I want to talk to this guy that they're working with, because, you know, I personally need a coach, somebody to rein me in and keep me from doing stupid shit. So
I just want to point this out before you go on. You're a coach, okay? I know you're a coach. You're a good coach. I'm a coach. I coach a lot of coaches, and we all know what to do, but when it comes to ourselves, it's like something switches off and we're stupid.
I can out-argue every single point that I want to make. Like, no, we're going to do this. No, but I feel this, but wait a second. Yeah. So coaches need coaches. I'm the first to admit that, man. So anyway, I was thinking about working with him, and then this person sends me, you know, his story, Dan's story. And I'm like, well, that's kind of funny. And at the time I was watching your interview with him. So all these things came together. I was like, yeah, okay, somebody's telling me something. Looks like we're going to go to work. I messaged him right there. He got back to me. We started working together. And that was since I got home from Portugal. So I think I'm 3 weeks in with him now. And, you know, we're getting geared up I've got a Champions League, I think in Romania, assuming sponsorship works out so I can get a flight and all that. And then the finals for Champions League is early November in Turkey. So 2 more planned this year.
We need to try and get you over for a Giants Live as well. That would be.
So I'm trying to do that early next year. I think that's my plan there.
I think that's what we need. I think with everything you've been through, with the amazing career that you've had, you need to come over and do one of the arena shows in the UK.
That would be cool. I mean, that would be a dream.
It's amazing. I was kind of sat thinking about you think of all the great Americans that have competed while both of us have been competing. It's only you and Brian that are sort of the original ones left.
Yeah.
What do you think of the young up and coming, or the current crop of American athletes? Because you guys have some fantastic athletes over there.
A lot of depth. I mean, there's been depth for the last, 15 years, but it just seems to be getting, just deeper and deeper. And there's a lot of really strong guys. I think we showcased a few of them at Worlds this year. Bobby Thompson. I think Gabriel Pena, he's a beast. He just pulled 1,000 pounds. He's one of the 7 that pulled 1,000 pounds at that last Giants Live show. Absolutely
insane.
Just crazy, man. I mean, and Evan Singleton, who just won that one, they're strong, they're fast, they're athletic, and every time they talk about any kind of lifting, rather than taking the veteran approach and just kind of saying, thinking like I know everything, I'm taking the young approach, the newbie approach, and trying to listen in. Like, how the hell are you getting so freaking strong? Because I need your tips.
That's exactly it. It's that constantly, you know, have that philosophy that you want to constantly keep learning, keep getting better. These, you and me, when we started this sport, it was a little different to how it is now. And you see that the guys are so much more professional.
They are.
You know what I'm talking about.
I mean, during the contest, there's the same level of professionalism, but it's more the after contest and the between contests. They stay professional.
Yeah.
There was a lot more after parties, I think, years ago. Which, you know.
But honestly, man, I mean, how old are you now, Travis?
I just had my 40th birthday in August.
Now, you're old enough to be a Masters. You know, any interest in competing in the Masters? Nope. You want to focus on getting back to Worlds and hanging with these youngsters.
The only interest I have in competing with Masters is it's all the guys I grew up with. You know, it's just be competing with the old guys again, the same crew. But other than that, no, man, no.
I love that.
I'm not that freaking old yet.
No, I love that.
I feel like a damn kid.
So what's the goal then? You've done it all in the sport. You've been, you know, 3 times, what was it? 2 or 3 times third at the Arnold's?
2 times third, 1 time fourth, and then 3 times fifth at World's Strongest Man.
What's there left to prove, or is this just personal targets for yourself?
Oh man, you know, the main thing that's,
or is it something else and it's just about keeping you mentally focused?
Well, I mean, some of it is I love to have things I love competing. I freaking love competing. I love the show. I love all that. And it's good to have those as goal markers so I can train for something. But really competing now, and this kind of goes back, okay, so when I was younger, the top of the mountain was that World's Strongest Man trophy. Now, that's like halfway up the mountain for me. I want World's Strongest Man, but there's so much I can do with that. There's so much I can prove. The things that I win, the contests that I beat, you know, all these top guys at, it just proves even more so what I try to tell people about getting back up and not quitting on life. Just because you screwed it all up, just because you lost everything, just because you kind of destroyed yourself, you know, through, you know, an addiction, let's say. A lot of people, they get out of their addiction and they're like, I'm an addict. I'm always an addict. And that's as far as they freaking go with it. And it's like, no, man, quit identifying as that. Know your weaknesses, sure. Don't be arrogant. Know your weaknesses, but don't identify as someone who just kind of is merely surviving. Thrive, get up and make something of your life. You could do so much more. And that's what I want to prove. I want to show people they don't have to just lay there because they've been kicked while they were down. Get the fuck back up.
Yeah. I mean, you are living proof that it doesn't matter how hard you get kicked down, you keep coming back up. You keep working hard and you can achieve things. And it's motivational for so many people. I know lots of people will watch this and you know, you get the messages every day. It's so nice to see that you can have that impact on people that are struggling, because
it's overwhelming. It really is. I get a lot of messages from people. And this is why I know that any room I walk into, 1 out of 3 people is struggling with something, because I get a lot of messages about, you know, people who say, I haven't told anybody, but I felt I could open up to you. You know, I've got this problem. I got that. I'm struggling with this. What did you do? And like, I'll tell them, you know, here's some of the tips and tricks, but I mean, I get so many messages. It's just, I would have never thought in a million years that this many people out there are struggling with their day-to-day life, going through a lot of the things that I went through, a lot of the same stuff, you know, like to one degree or another.
It's amazing how many people in the fitness industry as a whole suffer mentally. You know, people, just normal gym goers, that they almost use the gym as therapy, you know, something to kind of escape everyday life. But
yeah, absolutely.
You are absolutely, you know, the motivation that you give people is incredible. keep doing what you're doing, because whether you win another title or not, it doesn't really matter. You're inspiring people every single day, myself included. You know, we're good friends. We go back a long way, but to see you come back from that low point and see where you are now. I mean, when I saw you win in Portugal, I thought that was incredible. And, you know,
I appreciate that, man.
There may be a chance to get over to Romania as well for the Champions League over there. So that would be cool. But hopefully, regardless of that, we will see you in the UK at some point at a Giants live show.
I would love that, man. I can't wait. I'm chomping at the bit for one of those.
Awesome, buddy. Guys, make sure you go and follow Travis, an absolutely inspirational human being, incredible strongman. I mean, there's not many people been doing this sport longer than you now.
I think Big Z is the only one. Maybe Josh Thigpen.
Wow.
But yeah, like Mark Felix started a year after me. So
yeah. Incredible. Guys, make sure you go and follow Travis on Instagram. Just remind everyone what your Instagram handle is.
Yeah, just my name, Travis_Ortmayer.
And best of luck for the rest of the contest coming up this year, pal.
Thanks a lot, man. I really appreciate it.
We'll speak soon, okay? Take care. While you're here, guys, subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell so you don't miss any of my awesome strength content.